just want to welcome everybody to Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union Policy Draft Committee. We're getting started a few minutes late tonight. What I'd like to do is go over the agenda and then have an introduction, and then we can go into each one of the policies that we have down on the agenda for this item for this discussion tonight. We have a policy 1000 as number one tonight for the draft committee to look at the changes and things along that line that we wanted to put in last time. Policy 5003, bullying and prevention, and then we had we may have to hold law of character and some professional development opportunities that include equipment purchases, and Catherine was going to be discussing that. And we had optimum class size policy on 6400, and I was going to talk about what we needed to try to do there along the line, and tracking sheets, and then review, and then we had others. So is there any other policies that we need to add on besides that, or we want to change the agenda format? If not, well, we start over with
Angie Rowling Panel.
Bruce Lee Clark, Career Development Center.
Claude DeLucia, BSD.
Dick France, Woodford Community.
and Leon Johnson, MAU.
Frank Barnes, SVSU Tech Director. Tonight I'm Leon's right-hand man on his right hand.
Right. Okay. We policy 1000 is the policy that governs all the things that we control. I mean, how we do things. And so we made several attempts to go back and change things to bring them up to date as to how we wanted to really do things to fit everybody's needs in terms of how we're going to manage the policies and how we're going to disseminate them and who's going to do what. So, is anyone have anything we can go right down through it, the start of it. It's all up on the board here for policy 1000. That was a change of name from that we wanted in there from the management task force to draft policy drafting committee, and which included the particular groups in there, and what we were all about. I think it's in bold yellow print. The policy draft committee shall research and compose draft documents and for warning by the board. And the draft documents will be written in a standard format, assigned numbers, and have once they were adopted. And so let's see, we put in that working document. The warning document is one of the other things. Is going to be the working document. We had in there that we were going to send out a working document.
Right.
That didn't seem to work. So what we did is address the fact that we put in, taking out the warning document and added in just the use of a draft. I mean the warning copy, and then whatever changes came back, they need to come back through here, and then we'll make those changes and go out for adoption if they weren't so severe or required the rewriting of the policy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's slide down and see whether there was any other changes that we. Let's see.
There are some on page 2.
On page 2.
There you go.
Get a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's really the yellow stuff, and I'm wondering if, Leon, if I could ask a quick question, and maybe somebody else remembers.
Okay.
The stuff that's, the other stuff that seems to be crossed out and in italics, are those revisions that we made back when Laura Block was here? Aren't those the ones that were?
No, I was asked somewhere along the line to.
Those are the decisions those are the ones you made, editing you made.
Yes, I took what we had done and what we thought we were supposed to do, and
That's
I
helpful.
tried to identify it some way that way.
And so this, that's really helpful.
Right. That's why all those are struck through now, and we.
Yeah, and it just seemed to me it's perfectly fine. I guess what I would probably do is, if we're okay with striking those out,
For the clean them up for the next time?
Clean them up for the next time, so we don't have any of the strike-throughs, and we don't have any, so we know it is what it is we're actually being asked to look at.
It was just there to identify the changes that
Yeah.
were
Right,
made.
and I understand that, I understand the importance of that, it just, okay, that's helpful, thank you.
So we'll have that cleaned up for the next time. So what's in yellow here, highlighted
Yep.
again, is the all state and federal policies as required will be reviewed, and we had annually be reviewed by the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union Policy Draft Committee. And necessary revisions will be made to the by the Policy Draft Committee
Period.
once we make the review. And the Policy Draft Committee will review and approve by consensus any proposals or revisions to the administrative procedures.
Mhm.
So what we wanted to do in this particular part of that was to make sure that we did state that we were gonna be doing and reviewing all those particular policies, and that we also were gonna be looking at the administrative regs to make sure that they sort of were in sync with the policies.
Oh, I see.
Because it was, we
Mhm.
had a lot of discussion along that line about administrative regs not being, you know, the responsibility of the board, but it really helps to have them connected and have us just understand and review to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. The next part of the policy is the policies required by the state. Federal will be stated and such that in the heading box of the policy. So what we wanted to do is all those policies that were now state required to have is to be stated as such.
So,
Bruce.
another question, Leon, sorry, but at line 52 where we've got that now says, this is, I'm assuming, the example, where it says Policy Drafting Committee, Policy 1000, that is probably not the example I think we would want in there. We would want one that's actually a required one. Policy 1000 is not a required policy. You would want one that is a required policy, and then say under, I'm assuming under the words policy number 1000, there would be a big bold thing. This is what we do at the CDC that says required. So that
It's
so
just because we were doing in policy 1000. So
right,
you're saying,
but, you know, that's not a very good example, because in that example, that we're not talking about a state or federal law.
But the wording's clear enough to tell you that's what they want to do.
I
Yeah,
guess.
but
I agree, I don't even know if we need an example, but certainly, yes, we would want to cite to any of the federal laws that are, or state laws that would be applicable. That's absolutely true. But it just, I mean, didn't seem to me that we needed it.
so you want, I mean, it could be policy one.
I don't even, yeah, I
it
don't
could be
even know
any.
that we need examples, do we?
Well, we wanted to show everybody, it's subject to everybody's interpretation each time we go through this, and somebody look and says, well, what do we really mean here?
Okay.
So, just to clear that up, and
Okay.
instead of having policy 1000, we can put another policy number there.
I
I'll
don't
just
think
leave
it's,
it.
I don't think it's as big a deal as maybe I was thinking it before, so.
Okay.
I understand the idea of having the the latest review date. That all makes lots of sense. And the administrative procedures completed
Yeah.
box.
So
That also makes a lot of sense.
So that's the example, so we show everybody.
Okay,
that we're missing.
that happens to be the example, okay.
Yeah. So we go down, it says that you got the revision date, and then it says administrative procedures completed. We were relying on before to just say that they were attached, and now we're saying we would like to see with the policy that they've been checked off,
Mm-hmm,
and that each one of the individual boards on here may have some changes to the administrative procedures, and that's why they listed that particular way with all the districts there.
right.
Because they're not all the same, and administrative procedures may vary. And we wanted to make sure that somebody at that level, or that board, district, was
Right.
in compliance, I mean, up to date and in agreement with what the procedures were that they had that may be affecting them particularly.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Is there any Anything more on this one, Bruce? Oh, yeah, there is,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, there is.
We got
Oh,
some
that's
more
quite a
here.
bit here.
Let's see here. We just, I think we're tracking of the completion of the administrative procedure. We just did that part. Policy dissemination, we were changing some of those things.
Right,
I
from
just
hard
need-
copies to electronic files.
Right, and that was the thing, the big thing that we had talked about last time was,
Yeah.
let's get off the hard copies and get to the electronic files to be accessed through SVSU website with one separate electronic files as the primary file
Right.
out there. Let's see here. Anything else out there? No.
And then just down at the, okay, anything else on that?
Anything else is, I mean, it's what's out here. Building principals and their designees will be printed a hard copy upon request. We
Right.
said that's what we wanted to put in there, and so we got that. All new policies and staff meetings and ensure that staff. Now, there's one thing here that we're doing, and I asked last time, and is that we send, and I don't know that we need to do that we agreed to send information in terms of policies between the two districts, the CDC and SVSU.
Yeah, I don't think we need to put that in a policy. I think we can do that just by mutual agreement.
Right,
That
I
makes
just
sense.
checked and they are communicating with
They are.
each other. I
Yeah.
just wanted everybody to realize that when we have policies at the SVSU level, they're going to the CDC, and when
And
the
vice
CDC
versa.
have vice versa has them
Yeah.
happening. So if
It's not in
that's
there,
by
it's just-
mutual agreement.
No, we don't adopt them. We
Okay.
adopt them a different way.
Okay.
We have our own list that if it's the
Okay.
same, for example, this one, it might be 1,000 and it will say C.
Okay, let's see here, what
So
else?
we might use the
Adopt
same
upon
numbering
attached
system,
policy.
so that in essence it's relatively easy.
So do you have any problems with line
Slightly
80
different.
and 81 there, in terms
Try to share
of
it.
protocol for drafting and adopting policies attached to the policy 1000?
Right,
Okay,
By the
Yeah.
time you strike out all the stuff that needs to be struck out, you'll end up with one page, which is where you want
Really
to be
good.
anyway.
Yeah.
which is really where you wanna be.
Yeah, I think the
I,
rest of it.
I think if this is gonna be sent out to the boards now, and I think it's ready to be.
it's ready to be, and that's what we wanted, but it
Right,
needs to be
or
cleaned up and
sent to
things.
wherever it's supposed to be sent to, and I don't, if it's ready to be done, if that's ready, I'm wondering if having all of those strikeouts,
For bringing this to the SVSU board for I don't know how many years,
Yeah, it's,
you always felt like you were putting something up for sacrifice, and the more information you put in front of people who could be easily confused, such as myself, the more everybody was confused.
right, so I'm wondering whether, you, smarter minds than me, those who know the SVSU board and the rest, other boards, you folks, will having all of these cross-out lines in there, if we were to keep them, would that just confuse everybody? Or would it be better just to clean it up
yeah.
and just present the new policy as we're proposing it?
What did we just cover? We just.
I think would be better to have it more simple, because most board members don't like to read the whole thing, they just kind of like.
Okay, so I think that actually makes the most sense.
So that's what we brought it back here so that we can see what, I mean, when Dick went through it and we
Right.
did some things and
I think it'll look
striking out
substantially
everything.
Do you want me to take all this out right now, or is this something?
I think you wanna
This-
make a note to
this-
have Lisa do that.
This version will stay as it is. What they would do, at least would do, is take a copy of this and give it a new number and things and clean it all up from this stuff. Because if we needed to go back, and say,
Yeah.
oh, this is what we had in there.
Right, so if you add this is our X draft,
So we're ready to clean it up.
we're ready to send this, it seems to me.
But you
Out
don't need
here.
to change the number, though.
You don't need to
No,
change,
no,
you
no,
won't
I mean,
change,
the
no,
date,
it's
the date.
the
tab.
date
Yeah.
on the bottom, there ought to be some designated.
I thought you meant change the number.
No, it's gonna stay 1,000. I hope.
You don't want people to say, oh, I like that, what it said before.
That's my concern, I always, whenever I see that, I go, oh God.
You're
You
right.
know.
It's like a worm on a hook.
Yeah,
Don't
there's,
worry.
Right.
that's right, there's no reason to give them all of that. If they like the new draft, that's all that we need to know.
Right, exactly.
So is there anything else out there? Paul, you got anything you want to say?
No, it's not true.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So we're just gonna clean that up and send it out to SVSU for one.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Leon.
Okay, bullying prevention policy 5003. And there was some questions, well, we had a little bit of a discussion at Mount Anthony about the task force that was in place. And I was making sure that everybody realized that we had a policy in place and that it wasn't in conflict with what the task force and the state board and committee was doing in terms of bullying. But the main function was to make everybody aware of the particular policy that we have in place and the procedures and education along that line to make sure we be proactive to minimize anything that fall under these into these categories.
Right.
So at the very beginning here, let's see here,
This is pretty.
on line 11 for bullying and prevention, including an act of conduct by electronic means. That's what we had put in there. We wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that it could be by electronic means, and that it and B part on line 15 that it does not occur during the school day on the school property, on the school bus, or on the school-sponsored activities, and can be shown to pose a clear and substantial interference with another student's right to access educational programs.
Right.
So we wanted people to realize that things could be done somewhere else, but can tie in at the school environment and affect that is under this policy as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Down 20.
Leon, you're gonna go crazy if you start reading this whole thing because virtually the entire policy is new.
Right, I'm not gonna go crazy about reading the whole thing, but I
Well-
just wanted to make, if there's any pointing out any particular things out
Right.
here is that anybody had an interest in, if I hit the line and say, okay, the next one is examples of bullying include.
Right.
And so we won't try to go through them all, but
Right.
what we wanted to do is make sure that there's some main ones in there that when people are going through this, that they need to have, try to make sure that they understand what it is that the policy is saying.
Right.
And
Leon, I'd like to actually go back to the top, because this is an example of exactly what I was asking about before. Go back to the top where the real box is. Thank you,
Okay.
that one right there. This is a required policy.
Yeah,
Do we now, didn't we just say
we
in
said we were gonna
1000
do that.
that we were going to say under the policy number
Right,
that this is a required policy?
yes, we did say that, but we're not, I guess once we said we were gonna get policy 1000 in place, we'd be able to do all of that.
Yeah, but I think we should start doing it, I think
We'll do it now.
that should do it now. We should say, I don't know, how you,
Because it's already on top, that doesn't mean need by the state.
it is, I mean, this is a statutorily
Oh, well.
required policy.
Right, and we got the others, if we're ready to say, start doing that,
Why don't
what
we just,
did
why
it.
don't we do it, because right now this is gonna be,
Do it and highlight it.
I would do it and highlight it
Okay.
and I would say required in bold.
Okay,
And just leave it that simple,
Yep,
because that top line's going out of there, draft with proposed revisions.
yeah, exactly, that other part is going out anyway.
Do you want it all caps, or do we want it just?
I think that's fine.
right there,
Okay.
but we can highlight it in yellow so that they'll know that
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
done.
yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's an example.
Okay.
So I think that's a better way to let a school board know, when you're reading this as a proposed draft, you don't have a lot of flexibility about this language. This is really required language.
So they can't go changing it.
Okay,
Like-
well, that's
Yeah,
a good selling point.
Exactly. It's really, I mean, what the editors did here was basically took the DOE requirement and said, let's put in whatever it is and do it the way they want it done.
Right.
That way we're covered, actually, it's the closer we stay to the Department of Education's, yes.
In some cases,
It's not the
this is,
department,
this
it's
is
now the, whatever it is.
Agency.
agency, but this,
Agency of Education, right, I
Right.
can't get that language straight yet. As closer we can stay to the agency's language, the more coverage we have for being correct.
I'll,
You know what I mean?
I can rationalize with that, that's,
Okay.
okay, we can live with that, I can
Yeah.
live with it.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes, I won't be trying to talk about everything line by line, but I wanted everybody, as we started to go through them,
Yeah.
if you had questions or wasn't clear on something. Now, one of the key things in here, a lot of people, and I wanted to talk about 28, is that in order for bullying incidents such as the one described above that we just mentioned, have in here, they need to be repeated over time and directed at a particular student or intended to ridicule or humiliate or intimidate somebody. And one of the key things in there is that what bullying mean, it needs to be, what I get out of the definition, repeated. Okay, there's a repeat circumstances that make that, because everybody keeps saying, you know, they bullied me, and this is the first time they ever seen a person. Oh, they said one word. Well, we wanted something in order based on the policy here. It needs to be repeatable. You know, what do you mean by that? Yesterday, the day before, and the day, and whatever is going on. Now we got some repeats of certain things.
Right.
Okay. Okay. It says, okay. If we want to talk 31, it's in some cases acts of bullying may constitute unlawful harassment, where their conduct is based on
Or motivated by.
it's motivated by a student or student family member, preceded to be that certain way, and it's got a list of things there, sexual orientation, gender identity, and so forth.
This is one of the new sections of this particular set of instructions from the Agency of Education,
Right.
which is combining bullying or at least connecting bullying to what can also be harassment. Those are really two separate concepts, but bullying can also constitute harassment if the bullying is based on that particular list.
Right, because first we had them totally separate, now we're
Right.
trying to make the connection back to the two.
Right, and then the new directive is to connect them again.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we don't still have a harassment policy.
Right.
We do.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
And that's what you just.
And so we just had the cross-reference in there again.
Right.
At the next
Yeah.
particular.
Let's cross-reference to that.
Okay, reporting of bullying and complaints, and that's a strong piece there in terms of complaining. That was in the last one, but it
Right.
was highlighted to make sure that there's a mechanism by which these things needs to be reported and how to do it.
Let me ask a question, because somebody's gonna ask, where, well, first of all, we don't, so far as I know, we don't have headmasters, but the principal of each school in the South will annually designate 2 employees, that's true.
All right.
Where are they going to be found? Where are those names gonna be found? Are they gonna be found on the website of the SVSU? Are they gonna be found, published, and posted in the office of each school building? We ought to actually do something more than have a blank line there.
That should be a procedure in the administrative reg piece. If we're actually designating.
Well, actually, it has to be.
It's a requirement to be posted.
It's a requirement to be
Posted.
in the policy, not just the administrative regs. So I would say we need to say, we should say, can be found, posted in each school office, in the school, yeah, in the office of each school.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to see here.
Tell me if I'm typing.
Well,
I think you should.
First, should I take out or headmaster, since you make a good point, we don't have any.
we don't have one here, and that
And
was
when
the
there's no
statement.
reason to have it there, so I would
Okay.
do a cross out of that if
Yep.
you can.
I can.
There you go. Lovely.
And what would you like?
So just go back to that line, just if the principals of each school of the Southwest Vermont Supervisor Union will annually designate 2 employees to receive complaints of bullying and harassment. Okay, so we can't actually add that, I was, I mean.
Well, no, that's not the place. It's
But
the
you
next
wanted
thing.
to say that.
No.
We wanted to say where, what you're saying is, we should say that they should be posted somewhere.
Well, I would say the next sentence, Leon, is a sentence that has a big line in it with an empty blank, and you can't leave a policy with a blank line in it.
Okay,
It says, the names and contact information of those designated employees can be found, and I would say, posted at every, school office.
Yeah.
in every school office, or? if
Yeah,
they-
that's where we post it.
Yeah.
At
I don't
the
know,
CC.
the reason it was stopped there, because we wasn't sure where.
And I would say as well as the SVSU website.
Well,
That's a-
before
that's an
anybody can
underline
go
there.
anywhere in the school, they have to go to the main office first.
Right.
So it should be in the main office.
At every school's main office, it shall be found posted at every school's main office, I guess.
How about just shall be posted, and you can get rid of can be found posted, just sounds weird.
Okay, yeah,
That's what
shall be
we're gonna
posted.
say.
You're right,
And
can
the
be
other-
found
The other
posted.
question is the SVSU website gonna be updated often enough? I mean, it's a requirement to have it posted, but do you wanna?
I
another
wanna make
requirement
these
to change the
people,
website?
if I'm a parent, let's say I'm a parent, I think my kid is being harassed, okay?
That's true.
That's the
That's
purpose
true.
of this.
Yep, go ahead, I'll let
Okay,
you
the
go.
purpose of this is to give access to parents and students. It may very well be the case that I can go into my kids, if I'm a parent of a student in Pownell, I might go to the Pownell office and there it is. I may also be at home in the evening and the office is closed,
Should
or
be on the
for-
website.
it should be on the website. So these are the persons, and it's not that hard to update these. I mean, they don't change that often.
Well, I wasn't suggesting it was
That wasn't
hard, I'm
that.
just used to situations where it doesn't happen.
I know,
I'm
I'm with you, I
You're then
understand.
Right.
labeling it.
Yep,
And that's it, I agree with what you're saying, what I'm trying not to do with the policy.
tell me what you're trying not to do, Lee.
Is that, yes, we have this, and we're saying we're gonna post them, but I didn't really need to put it in, and I don't know how to say this so it won't. I didn't really need to have it posted on every corner.
It's not.
And that's far out there. But I'm saying, by the fact that we say we got the policy, we're saying we're gonna post it, and we're saying that the principal here is gonna designate that.
They're gonna designate 2 people.
If somebody is having somebody, the first person they're gonna be trying to do is contact principal, who do I contact? Or the principal are responsible for making sure that they have it posted in certain locations if they noted it, but for us to try to manage that particular part of posting, I'm having a problem with where to post it. It's just that the names will be posted.
But how is this, okay, I understand that, but what is if I'm a principal, let's say I'm the principal of an elementary school and
Right.
I see this policy, and the policy doesn't tell me where I'm gonna post them. It just says they shall be posted. Does that help me very much?
Well, it helps you in the sense that I know I gotta post it now. If I got this and we're going on, I'm definitely not gonna post them on the ceiling. There are areas within the building where they may be posted, and when we do the administrative regs to this particular piece here, though, it should say that in the administrative regs for those particular districts down that says, okay, for BSD saying that they're gonna have all their the schools post this information, these people's name here. We're gonna do that. That's when you can get down to the real nitty gritty, but we want.
As long as we make sure that somewhere in a public document, a parent gets to know where should I look. And I would want that notice to be as easy as possible. That's the purpose of it.
Right.
And I don't care whether we say shall be posted, the names of those designated employees shall be posted
In each building?
publicly,
Or
or publicly posted in each building.
in each building?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And so now it makes the principals responsible, and it makes the individual boards out. So Shasberry says, where are you guys posting it? Where's the principal posting it? And that part can be for the administrative regs when we go around and says
Absolutely.
that
Sure.
we're doing all this, and everybody is comfortable that they met that requirement for their district.
Yeah.
They're posted.
But I all I'm saying is I want the names of those two employees being
Yeah.
available to parents who may want to make that contact.
Right, and
And
that's,
as long as that's fine, that's the only thing that's its purpose.
I think we
Okay.
can live with it that way.
I can live
that we
with it.
Meet that requirement.
Sure.
Is, for that, let's see here, is there anything else that, in their, school, 71?
No, this is all the reporting.
School employee reporting. Oh,
Most of this is per statute.
That's
It's-
all the
this is
same
all
thing,
the
so-
language that came.
So anybody have any problems with anything else there? Reoccurrence and shall be immediately
No.
reported to,
I think that's all the
the
language
designated
from
employee.
the.
So, okay, we just covered that, so that's good. So Frank just ran out of mine.
So much for your right-hand man, Lan.
Yeah, I know
Just
what,
lost both of them.
let's see here, he has this, oh, that works. We, see here, parent reporting. Let's go down into that area a little bit. Okay, parent reporting, any parent, a legal guardian, a custodian who witnesses or conduct, that is, he or she reasonably believes that, might be, constitute bullying, who reasonable believes, and I guess I gotta scroll that down a little bit more, but what that particular part does is address the fact that we're telling the parents they have a responsibility as well to to report what they see in line with what we have in this policy here, what they believe to be bullying and harassment. Okay? And that's what we wanted to do. All right?
That's the reporting stuff.
Yep,
I apologize for the late, I had a meeting that ran over.
no problem.
Okay.
Frank stepped right in.
Yeah, he did, he's great.
Okay. So what we were doing was just going through the highlighted parts in here and
Oh, I see,
And
you wanted the.
what we just got done was wanting to make sure that we had the building principals responsible for posting the names of the individuals that are named annually, and that would show up in administrative regs for them to have met that requirement as to where they wanted to post.
Oh, I
In
see.
here, we
Yep.
had it left off and said that.
There was a
would be-
line there that was just empty.
Yeah, and so that was for them to come back, but we filled it in for them and
This is
said,
the-
okay.
People they would be reporting to.
Right.
Right.
If they were a
Got it.
parent
Got it.
or a child, and
Yep,
needed,
got it.
You need, we just need to have something
Yeah.
that says
like
that you will
posted in
post
the
it.
office or
You
whatever.
post it in the office, you can do it wherever.
Yep.
And each individual, based on the policy 1,000, each individual district can see that that requirement is being made based on the administrative regs. It will be saying where they put it,
Yep,
so that
okay,
we
good.
won't designate
Yep.
where each one of us put it,
Yes,
but they
that's
need to say that.
Correct,
Uh,
great.
Let's see here, do we need to talk more about, that's the DCF stuff, I don't think we need to do anything in 5 schools. Consequences of violating the policies, there are some things in there for that.
Can I ask just a grammatical?
Sure.
It's right where you are at line 128.
Violation of,
Yeah, violators of the bullying policy shall, and then it's got a hyphen.
Yeah, it's like,
That seems weird to
be
me.
paren.
It should be shall. You could do it, it is a parenthetical phrase.
Yep.
You could do it with parentheses. No, that's not where it is.
Oh.
That's not where it ends.
oh,
The other, see, there's another,
Got it.
there's another hyphen down
Oh,
after the
for
word
goodness
history.
sakes.
Right
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's try to make that in a few sentences.
Yeah,
Rather
well-
than putting it in parentheses, because I think it's too much between.
It is,
Yeah.
it's, shall,
Be
you could
subject-
actually say violators of the bullying policy shall be subject to the following potential disciplinary actions or remedial actions. And then you could say at the end of that, after those A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Mhm.
adjudication should be based on the relevant da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? Relevant facts, surrounding facts and circumstances, including but not limited to circumstances or consideration of prior instances of similar behavior and the student's overall disciplinary history. In other words, we take into account the usual stuff.
Okay, that was, yes.
Do you see what I mean?
Moving it down there.
I'm just,
Yeah.
if you wanna put it into separate sentences, you can do it into separate sentences,
Right, yeah, I can work.
but you
Based
see
on
how
the
that,
relevance of-
putting it in dashes and making it that far apart makes the sentence essentially unreadable
Right,
by an ordinary human being.
So we just kept the based and then we'll start there,
Yeah.
let everybody know.
You can say before you've got based on
Yeah.
relevant, you can say adjudication will be based on,
tell me if I'm spelling it right.
yeah, that sounds right,
Sounds
looks right to me.
Looks right.
Or shall be, or is based on,
Mhm.
whichever you want.
Shall be.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, I like having multiple sentences.
Yeah, I think trying to create too much into one sentence, I understand why they did it, but. Okay, I love that, that looks much better and it's easier to read.
Okay. Anything, and on the safety planning, is anything there, does anybody need to change about that? Okay. Let's see here. Is there any- Okay, those are just some instructions, more instructions to, so, our,
And then reporting to other agencies.
yeah,
Here's the training data.
Right.
okay.
Okay, good.
So basically, what, okay. There's more.
Yeah, I think that's,
Data gathering.
Yeah, data
That's it.
gathering and so forth along that line.
yep,
So what we wanted, I mentioned that the particular task force that's on bulletin two,
Yes.
on Monday night, that we have this particular policy, and
Right.
basically we want everybody to be aware of this policy, what's in it, and then feed off of those kind of things in terms of how to make everybody much more aware of what's in it, and examples of things that fall in these particular categories for the discussion and so forth, and able to prevent these events from occurring.
Now, this has been around once, correct? I'm pretty sure it's been around for first read.
I'd have to go back and look.
But it came
Yeah.
back because we wanted to make sure we made the connection between the two of them in there.
Okay,
That's
great.
what it was.
And
So it'll
Catherine,
go out again,
Yeah.
not for approval, but
But-
for another warning?
I would
Probably
actually-
approval.
I think you wanna put it out for approval by the boards
Yeah,
at this
I
point.
would like to, so that we can make the student handbook pretty.
Exactly, that's
Yeah,
what I was
I
thinking.
think that's what we
Yeah,
said we
Catherine,
wanted to
I-
do, because we had it that way. I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's our time frame for, are we supposed to be done at a particular time? Because I just wanted to ask a quick question,
tonight?
Catherine, tonight.
Yes, 4:35, we're gonna be done at 6.
Okay, so we're still fine.
Yep.
The task force, if there's people here who are listening,
Mhm.
who have no clue about what that you and Leon just talked about, as if it was,
Oh, it's
Could
a
you-
Well,
state,
it was.
I know, I'm
Okay.
just,
Yeah.
it sounded like it was a
Yeah, go
local
ahead.
task force, so
Yeah.
I'm really wanting
now we
some
may have
education of the
people
public.
calling up to volunteer to be on it,
No.
which, no, it's not ours.
The state has a a board, I mean, not a task force set up to look at bullying prevention.
Right.
And we have several individuals from this area
Right.
on that. Griffin from Mount
Thomas.
Anthony is on it.
Griffin Thomas.
Griffin Thomas, and he was bringing up the fact that what kind of what did the particular boards want to see in out
Right.
here, and what I mentioned along that line is that we had this policy, and that this policy clearly states what needs to happen. What we needed to do is have ways to show and examples for people and have them be more sensitive to what's in here in terms of what types of scenarios that constitute this. They may not be aware of that, so it's
Right.
more of an awareness type of thing.
Right.
I was wanting the task force to work on.
Exactly.
Okay.
I would second that. To me, as much as anything, it's a matter of public education.
Right. Right.
And if they can use public access television to do that, that would even be better,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's educate the community.
So
on that.
we're ready for this to be going out for warning.
Yeah, I think so.
So it went out for warning in November, but didn't cut the
Go
buzzer.
anywhere.
Yeah, it did. It went out in December and
I mean,
actually
for
it finished.
adopting, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're gonna do an adoption.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing that we did, Catherine, was we did put the word required now up underneath 5003.
Yep, good.
Yeah, because that was, we were just saying, I thought we
Yeah,
were
we
waiting
need
until it-
annual training and on it as well.
Yep.
We really need to do that here
Yeah.
for our staff.
But at the top
Absolutely.
in the title?
Yes, yeah, I
Oh,
got
you
it.
saw it up there?
Yep,
Yeah.
well, he told me.
Okay.
Yep, it's there. Okay.
Let's see where it is.
And so, let's see, so that's gonna go out.
Yeah. Good.
Uh,
Let's see, where am I? Did you talk about policy 1000? I wasn't sure whether
Yes.
you knew.
Yes, yes.
Did you know why it was back on the agenda? Because North Bennington had raised the issue that some of the edits made the
Impossible to
implication that a local district couldn't have a separate policy when in fact they have.
I didn't know that they were saying that. We did say that it was too many of the things in the strikeouts and so forth that made it sort of confusing, and we
Yeah,
wanted to
right,
clean that up.
exactly. Okay,
So
good.
that we
Good.
can do that. So that was to clean it up and send it out for a warning.
Okay, good.
But I didn't see anything in the language
think if
that,
people
just-
that,
If they-
Actually, maybe the first sentence says that.
that prevented them from,
System-wide policies which address the needs of all will be developed with input from directors and appropriate staff from each district within the supervisory union. A single policy manual. Maybe that's what they're talking about?
well, we
That
want a
there's only
single,
one policy?
Yeah, no,
we
you're
want
gonna
a
have a
single policy manual. It's
Well,
okay,
right?
but if you read that as a single policy for every issue
Yeah, I
in
think
a
that
manual.
some of that was taken out, was the recognition.
Well, it does say that the, will be maintained, and the policies for all, we didn't read far enough. For
Well,
all school districts and the
paragraph that I'm talking
supervisory union will be the same to assure that rules do not change for students, for staff who transfer from one district to another within the supervisory union.
well, that's a true statement. That was one of the founding reasons why we got it.
I
It's trying
know.
to be the same, but that's not what it meant, that you couldn't be
Right.
Yeah,
different,
because I
so.
think.
I don't think this is prescriptive.
Yeah, okay,
And so-
because they're one of the only, I think there are only 2 boards left in the state that are actually the delinquent tax collectors. They
Right.
actually supervise that, so, they have to have a policy on that
Sure.
themselves, but nobody else would, so I
Right.
think that was the
But
example.
when we had.
And that would be, yeah, this
But-
doesn't prescribe that just
Okay.
because they have a
All right.
delinquent tax collection policy,
So
that
we'll-
everybody
Can't
else
have
has
one.
to have one,
That's
right?
right. And,
So we'll continue it around then, it
And it's-
stopped when it got to them.
and it
Okay,
should
back here.
be, what we wanted that to do here is that particular
Right.
policy should be, in which is there's part of the SVSU manual, so
Right.
that when
Yeah, it should be,
all of the individuals in the
Yeah.
district will see it and realize that, oh,
Yep.
this is what's over there for them. So-
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that was, you're now up to date with all of that, that's ready to go out. for cleaning up. Let's see here. They're requiring us for that. Oh, now it's 3 SVSU professional development opportunities, which included equipment purchases. You wanted to update the status of that?
Do we know, Frank, I'm not sure this committee had been brought up to date of the positive response that we got from individuals to share how they were using the devices that they got in the conferences for their classwork. Remember, we had that requirement.
Right,
And we did have a positive response.
very, very positive response,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that they were willing to do that.
Well, we were wanting to make sure that we had some documentation that talked about how to manage these things in the future out there, that's all.
Oh, I see.
That's what we were really looking for. And that's what I thought I was gonna get when these opportunities, which include equipment purchase,
Okay.
is
Yeah,
what
I
we're
don't think
looking
we've
at.
resolved that one yet.
Because
But
we
we were
said,
going to work on it, so we'll keep it on. But I think
Yeah.
we'll word it differently on the agenda, Leon, so that we.
Yeah.
yeah, we wanted to make sure that things turned out to be fair for everybody, and whether they were SVSU owned stuff or not, and vice versa, or they were gonna get a 1099 or whatever.
Yeah, I just think you just have to follow this.
And I
Well,
thought
we
we
had
said
said
that was gonna be followed.
Would you like me to, I can look at some policies that some other schools have in
Yeah.
place that are dealing with the same issues and do a draft of a composite for us?
Well, we were talking about that, but then we said, we thought that would be something that needed to reside with the SVSU group in terms of procedures for that, and
For professional development.
that's right. And so, as opposed to having a policy with a number on it that we need to look at, it needs to be.
It was more like a procedural thing for approval of professional development, right?
Right,
But you wanted a report back of how we resolved it.
that's right. That's what I was looking
Yeah.
for, that route.
So we could look at other policies and just see how they resolve those
Okay.
issues, even though we're not gonna write a policy.
I apologize.
No, that's all right.
I was
I-
supposed to have something ready and I don't.
I was confused about why it was on as well.
So we still need a report in terms of how we're gonna handle this,
Yeah,
on the professional development.
as a procedure.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
and then the next one was the optimum school class
Optimum
size.
class size.
And I think it's on here because we,
Well, it's on here, and I say it again, why it's on there, and I mentioned one of the things that's great confusion and not so much confusion, well, it's the interpretation and the information provided on the class size when you ask someone to say, how many students in the class? How many taking, in a particular category or typical. We get all kind of answers, and we get all types of formats coming in. One of the things that we talked about at the Southwest Vermont Career Development Center, which is, I got some emails, got some information back, is what the board needed to look at here is that once the class size optimization information is provided and standardized, was to have a means by which we are asking the administrative personnel to review those particular situations throughout the school district in terms
Oh,
of
I see.
what are they
Okay.
obligations, how they meet. If we're constantly being, having classes that are up on the maximum side of whatever categories we put in there,
Right.
do we need to be looking at that and saying we need to plan better to keep that number or reduce it or add another, reduce it by adding more instructors in there along that line, or do something along that line. And on the other side, if we got classes that we're saying that are constantly dropping in numbers and dropping in numbers and dropping in numbers, somebody needs to be in a position to look at those at some point and say, wait a minute, something's going on here.
yeah, And I
What
think-
we used to do is no longer what we, is of interest to anybody, and the class is dropping, but yet we have somebody just sitting there. You need to look at that and say, some changes need to be made, you know, along that line before it gets too far. That's what I think we need to do with it.
So I
Isn't
think
that
that
up to
rests
the
with the building
principals?
administrator, so what will happen is that as they prepare the budgetary information for the board and for the chief financial officer and have those conversations with me, they're going to be looking at that class size and monitoring it in terms of the budget process and whether they need additional or reduction in staff.
But we don't, you know,
Go ahead.
we don't tell them that. I mean, we don't say, and they're gonna look at it, but we're saying, what you need, it's a little bit different than just looking at it. I'm saying over time, 2, 3 years, or 5 years,
When they hit the
you-
maximum.
you need to know what's happening out here. We got all the English classes over at the school and they are just packed. And yet we got another type of English class that nobody's in. I'm saying, I happen to be picking on English, and I'm saying is wrong there, that we need to look at that and start talking about what we need to do to boost the number of kids in that class, or is it of an interest
Right.
anymore that we need to maybe not offer so many of them, offer one and offer something else
Or
somewhere,
alternate
or alternate and something
Yeah.
along that line. That's what we want the building administrators to do, but there's nothing out there to say do that.
Okay, so that would go in the procedures, and I think we do have the procedures, we just don't have them written down. For example, at the high school, they do not run classes fewer than 10. So if there are fewer than 10 students that sign up for a class, they don't run it.
But then that's what we're gonna put in. Now, this is the
Yeah,
new
yeah.
policy from the state, but if we pulled up, and we didn't pull up the one that we had.
We
from
have,
the
we have
redevelopment
a
center.
state one and we have
Yeah.
our current one, and the
Right.
two of them don't really jive together very well.
Right. Well, I think because we wanted to put in for the younger grades a different,
Well,
here it is.
Yes, we looked at a variety of different things, and a lot of it is there. Yeah, they're there.
Right, so, and we did, I mean, the numbers are in
Well, this
there.
is not the right one, this
Oh,
isn't
that's-
the right
that's a
one,
different-
that's an old one. That's
But
an old
again,
one.
the numbers are in there, it says 20 and this and so forth, but it doesn't tell
Right.
you to look at them. I mean,
Doesn't the principals and the,
There's,
That's
The
the newer
facilities,
version, the principal's one is the newer version, there's a whole,
because I know in
Paragraph that
Powell, a
starts
couple
off
of years
with
ago, the
principals
principal
rather than-
came to the school
Principal's
board.
decisions regarding class
And
size.
they said, this is
Yes.
how many students will be coming in that
This
we
is
know
not the
from
right
kindergarten,
one.
so we went from 2 kindergartner
Yeah.
classes to 3 kindergarten.
that's
classes.
right.
that's
Right.
fine,
And
but,
every year we look at it to see if we have to adjust.
but
That's
then
right.
what tells you to do that?
Procedures
The-
to
Just-
this should, in the procedures of
Right,
this.
and
would.
so what I'm saying here is that we wanted to make that stronger by making whatever we say we're gonna hold to, not binding, only that the building administrator is responsible for looking at all of the classes and their numbers on each end of the spectrum and reporting back to the boards on that is what we
Yeah.
want.
Yeah,
Well, coming from Powell, we've always had that.
Yeah, but
right.
he's saying there's just nothing that tells Todd that he should do that, he
Right.
just knows to do it.
Right.
That's
Or
all.
He-
Joy-
yes,
Well,
and I
I
think-
think that it would be
Joy
in the principal's job description.
Well, I won't give any, I mean, don't give me
Or
out here,
administrative,
I'm being a
you know,
nice guy.
job
What I'm trying to do from a board perspective
Just
is,
get it in procedure.
I'm trying to get these things down
Right,
and
Right.
make sure that the board has some kind of idea of what's happening and what the expectation is.
right.
And
Well,
not
I
the
understand
feeling. So, and I wanna be uniform with it as much as possible.
But Aunt, you wanted everyone on the TV to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I know,
Yes,
I got that
absolutely.
in there, it's no question about it, that some may or may not be
It-
doing it,
it
but
is
we want to
done.
be consistent,
I
yeah.
think it's done, across the supervisory union. If there's just nothing here that actually gives
So we'll,
enough.
we'll
Right.
take care of that for the next time.
So we
Good.
had the good examples of the
Absolutely.
one that we said that was in the Career Development Center where we gave it, so if
Okay.
Mount Anthony says we wanna have 10, if we Mount Anthony wanna say 25 over here,
Yep.
whatever it is, we just saying, just.
It's
look at it.
important to have
Yep,
some
good.
benchmark.
So are you saying that each school could have their own?
No, it would be one procedure that would say elementary or middle or high.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it would be different for each of the levels, elementary.
Okay.
Yeah,
middle,
yeah.
And it might even be
Different
different in the
than
lower
that.
elementary to the
Right.
upper.
For the, you know, if we got, I mean, we're gonna have pre-K.
Or it might,
you know,
yes, it
what do
might
we
have
need to be
pre-K
doing
to
about
3.
that?
Yeah,
You
And
know?
then 4, which is what, you know, we often might say fewer for the pre-K to 3.
well, we
And-
do,
yeah.
we've said 17 or 18.
And if that's the case, that we
Yeah.
find
I
that,
can't find that one in here, but.
Well,
I
because
know
the,
we
yeah, the
said-
one that I'm looking at says 20 and 25.
Yeah, that's not the latest one.
so
Okay,
we'll
that's the
wanna,
one that I got sent.
Yeah, I have
So-
to look for it, I don't know where
Okay.
it is.
It
but
doesn't,
I'll find it.
I think it just needs to be
so we
pretty
need,
well cleaned up.
so we need numbers, okay, max and I'll,
Okay.
So you want a minimum and a maximum?
yeah.
I think so, I think,
I think what we did
It's a
was
rationale.
targeted for K through 3. And
Yep.
then we did by the average among all of them for the others.
Yeah.
It's hard to do a minimum and maximum, but that is what the state was asking for.
the state is asking for a minimum and maximum,
So,
yeah.
but the maximum is difficult, because if you get one more student, you're
I know,
not
then
gonna
it kicks
create
you
another
over.
whole class,
Okay.
because you can't afford.
So
And-
Catherine, who would decide that? Would you
Well-
talk to the teachers
No,
of those classes?
no, I mean, I wanna just make sure you, when you go, before you go back, we're not stopping. Again, with those, the terms that are being used here is average and
Right.
so forth. But this particular piece that we're talking about is asking the billing administrator to look at them.
Yeah.
And so
It's a
if you
procedure.
say in the policy, we wanna have 20, and whether that's the average maximum would be 20. But then when they look at
Right.
all of them and they say, whoa, all of our classes are consistently running 25, you know, and go back to the board and says, look, we're running these classes and they all running at 25, we need to do something here. Last year we were this way, and the year before we were this way, we need to do something.
And
Now
so
the
rather
board
than,
says, you're
yes.
right, we need to do
I
something.
understand that, but I'm not a teacher, and I don't feel comfortable sitting here saying
Oh, we,
that as a teacher, I will only have 10 children in my class,
No.
or as a teacher, I will
No.
only have
no,
20
we're
in
not
my
asking
class.
this board to do that, I mean, but
No.
there will be cuts
But we
and
have to have
numbers.
numbers, so where are we gonna come up with those numbers?
Well, we did already.
They're already
So
in there.
We already, I don't know, they're not on these copies, but we've already taken from BSD to this group, the idea that in K through 3, we would strive for a maximum of 17 or 18 in
Okay,
the
gotcha.
class.
Right, they,
For
But you're
K
not-
through 3,
Okay, and then like
rather
3
than
through
the
6, and
average
then like
being
Yes,
high
yes,
school,
yes.
okay.
It will be different, and I do think, you don't wanna have a situation where, let's say, we've said it's gonna be 17. So if the 18th kid shows up
Yeah.
September 1,
right,
what do we do?
you can't.
You
No.
can't create a system where that automatically triggers an automatic new section.
So what
It might
happened?
very well be, you've gotta give administrators wiggle room to be able to expand and contract as necessary.
And parents really need to know that as well, because what happened
Exactly.
with kindergartners coming in this year to
Right.
BSD is we had so many late registrations
Yeah.
that we had already looked at those classrooms and set them up, and it was really too late to open another classroom. The population shifted in town away from the Molly Stark area into the Benell area.
Right.
So we had to stop the Benell registrations and move kids out of there into Molly, and it, so we're even at 19 and 20 right now, even though our goal was 17 for
Sure.
kindergarten, so that's how it works.
Yeah,
But
and that
again,
makes sense.
the speaking of that, this is the individual circumstances that we're talking about. What we're
Right.
talking about is over time,
Just watching and monitoring.
that if we're watching it on
Right.
both ends of the spectrum.
Yep,
So and we need to get that in
Yep.
there so that we can make
Yep.
sure
got it.
we're doing that, so that nobody won't fall, I mean,
And the other
be
thing it
falling
does
asleep.
it does, Leon, it does give notice to parents that this is a flexible
That's right.
place.
And
This
we're
is not
looking-
a hard and fast line where we say, well, you gotta create another classroom. No, you
Right.
can't do that, that's just,
Yeah, no,
that's not realistic.
it
Right.
isn't realistic, that's
I
right.
agree. So,
Good.
Okay.
we
Okay,
can,
got it. Yep, we'll
so
get
the
that.
action out of that, if we want,
We're gonna
he
get-
was supposed to send
We're gonna
their
get some
copy of
documentation.
this over too, so we can work
Yeah,
on
I
it
have
sometime.
that
So
right
if you
there,
talk-
sharing policies, CBC.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's, besides going to the tracking sheet And the status review, that's all we had for today.
Yeah.
And it's a few minutes, 15 minutes to 6, so we got some time to,
Decide what you wanna
Oh,
put on
that's
the
in the
next
tracking.
agenda.
yeah.
So-
Well, we know we got, optimum class size will be back for next time, next
Right.
month, is that
Right.
And we'll send the policy on policies out.
Out, and two, and bullying
Yeah.
go out, cleanup go
Bullying
out.
will go out,
Right.
We,
and that's for adoption.
and we have, okay, so
Good.
that's going out, and then, that information on professional development, do we need that back next month, or no?
Is that
End of-
possible?
End of March.
Is it, can it be,
Yeah.
okay,
When will the next meeting be for this?
It'll be the fourth Wednesday in March, which is,
Exactly the same as today.
oh, that's true.
20,
The 27th.
27th. Yep.
Ah,
okay.
sorry.
Okay, so we were looking for the track teams.
Are we?
Yeah, I don't see,
4:30
Okay.
on the 4th
If not, we can,
Wednesday.
oh, there it is.
that's prior to
Got
the
it,
track.
found it.
Okay.
There you go. I don't know, let's see this. So the policy on policy got as far as Pownell, then it went to North Bennington, you can see it stopped there.
Yeah.
So now we'll send it out again.
So we made those changes, we'll just
Yeah.
keep going.
And then
Sure.
bullying has been warned, so we'll put that out
But
for
you
adoption.
didn't make
We need to come back for the attendance policy, let's put that on the next agenda again, we
So
still
the
have some more.
attendance policy,
Yeah,
now-
and that needs to go into the handbooks as well, so we
Yeah.
should really try to get that one for March. And the problem has been we've had so much change in personnel regionally, trying to get the regional piece of that together. Because we had a question about the role of the court system in that.
Right.
right,
Right,
okay, so we
and
got,
that's my delay as well. The nurses, I can report on the nurses' work with the allergic
and the
reactions,
collectors,
yes.
I thought we had got through with that, but that was
Well,
a stopping.
Yeah, we did because this board, which is BSD, remember, we're concerned about the 2 people driving to the hospital, 2 designated
Yes.
people, and
Yes.
so I took it back to the nurses at the, in service on the 25th, and there's still some questions that they have about timing of a 911 call or a local response time to the hospital. So I was charged to talk with the police chief and 911 and see if we could get a listing of what the average response time, which they can't really give because it's whoever's closest.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were going to also discuss about the confidence level of saying, okay, we are gonna rely on 911, we're not gonna designate people to drive, because I think it was a liability issue and a training issue and who's gonna volunteer to be designated to drive in the absence of a nurse. Some of the nurses felt still that if somebody was having an attack and they needed to get them to the hospital, they were gonna get them in their car and take them, rather than,
Rather than wait.
wait for 911. So I don't know, maybe what they do, we can coordinate something where, they call and they're in the car going and the 911 car catches up, the police catch up to them and just guide them through or something, I don't know.
So
But
you're
that's the
saying
kind
that
of
they're
stuff-
taking people in their own vehicles?
No, that's not what you're saying, they're saying,
Well,
Yes,
that's, no,
that
that's
is-
exactly what
they
we're
would
That's
say.
what the policy
It is what
says.
they're doing.
That's what the
They
do
policy
it.
says, that people are taking in their own vehicles, whether it's a nurse or other staff. And that's the
I didn't
issue
think we
with
had any.
I think that, yeah,
I wouldn't think that would be a good idea, period.
Yeah.
Well, the
But-
issue, some of the
That's all
issue
right.
boils down to that license is not the SVSU license, that license is the individual's license.
Right,
That's
and that's
So
the,
And the liability of it.
It
Yeah.
doesn't,
you're
they're
not
gonna
covered.
do that anyway, coverage or no coverage, I think is what you're running into, because that's the need they feel.
Well,
And
that was part of it.
understand that, but that's a personal choice,
That-
that's different from us saying,
right,
or the board saying,
Right.
as, as board
the
policy,
policy.
you are now putting this out, you're gonna drive this person, because that does change
Right,
Oh,
Right.
yes,
the
Or if they got
relationship
into a car
dramatically.
accident or something
Right.
like that.
yeah.
but we
If you
can't,
call 911 and you have the ambulance come, they're gonna take the person in the ambulance first over a nurse driving a child to the school.
Oh, yeah,
I
oh,
can't get it, I
absolutely.
mean, we can't do anything, but I think Bruce hit on, you have a professional obligation for a person that's licensed to say, I'm gonna do something else, as opposed to what we say we want
Or
to have
directed.
done
Yeah.
directed by the school district, and so I don't wanna
Those
get
are
the
two
two of
very
them
different things.
right, I don't wanna get them mixed up, because you ask a
Right.
firefighter or a paramedic, and they tell you they gonna do this regardless, because they are
That's what
sworn
they-
to do
sure.
that.
Sure,
But the town may not direct certain things out there, or we may not direct certain things.
that would be my sense.
So
So-
I'll try to get that on for
And
March
they have something like
with
that.
those changes, but we really wanted to take it, so
Yeah,
you can
no
see
kidding.
here where that stopped, was at Bennington.
Right.
They will carry.
What is
And then
that
we'll take it
number?
back.
The crap hits the-
That's,
Anaphylaxis, is it?
That's
Yeah,
anaphylaxis.
so wait a minute, I can,
So that's gonna come back to us tomorrow,
so
next
it's
month.
5185.
Yep. That
And
makes sense.
Internet use policy is going tonight to the SVSU board for approval, and will be finished. And Frank will be happy.
So, yeah, we'll try to make sure we get some wording in there to move this along, because
Yeah,
it needed.
and the rest are some of them. So the fundraising, Mike Malloy and Tim Brown were
was-
supposed to meet with Rick Pembroke, but of course, we've been so busy with getting ready for annual meetings and budgets that
Right.
I don't believe they've had a chance to do that, but they will intend to.
Let's see here, we looked at residence requirement, 3105.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we
That's-
chose not to change that.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's
that's,
just the procedure that's changing,
Right,
right? So it should go
Okay.
to the boards as an FYI.
just an FYI, absolutely.
right. And, let's see, what else is down there?
The kindergarten eligibility, we decided not to change, but there was gonna be some research
Right,
by Karen
right.
and Frank on other states, what they do.
Right,
Yeah.
And then weapons prohibition was a change in procedure, not policy.
so when we publish, for example, after tonight, when we publish the internet use policy, will we put required underneath the number, even though it's not right now part of our policies to do that? Can we at least begin that
Yeah, we
practice
should,
to do that?
yeah, because
so
it
that
is a
we-
required policy.
Because that's a required
Right.
policy.
Okay.
I know we put them here on the tracking sheet,
Yeah,
but
let's just make sure we do.
let's
We
just,
said we were gonna
let's
start
just
doing
start that
that.
practice whether,
Yeah, that's
That
good.
was-
despite whether we've said we would or
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
we ought to do it.
We should, we
Yeah, that was what
absolutely
Bruce
should.
said we need to start doing, and we put it in the policy on policy anyway, there, so.
Yeah, it's there, so when they.
Yeah, it's
eventually-
better to do it there.
It is, it's good notice.
So, I'm just trying to see here, grade advancement, Mount Anthony didn't come back
Okay,
from
so
that at all, I mentioned that,
that's my fault, I haven't gotten to it.
well, Dave Barrio, and,
that's true.
he was supposed
He
to
was
take
out
that
for a
back
while,
with,
so we'll get him
Yes,
back.
Dave was
Right.
out.
Yeah, we'll get him back on that with
yeah,
Tim Payne.
with Tim
Yeah.
Payne, I mentioned it at Mount Anthony, we
Yeah.
need to get that out of
Okay,
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 so then
so,
we'll try to get as many of those back on
Yeah.
for the next time, that's great.
is that,
give priority to the ones that we need to have for the handbooks.
so if that's all,
Yes.
if we're ready to end this tonight?
Sure,
We won't try to have, that was review status, but
No reason
Okay.
for that.
whatsoever.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for
So
coming
good to see
tonight, and we'll try to, get things going again for next month. March
This actually
23rd, I mean 27th.
we'll see you at SVSU. At 7.